Hey, this is Advocate Nyari Mashayamombe, your empowerment advocate on Identities with Nyari Mashayamombe, the empowerment podcast. And today I'm so excited to welcome Rotina Mafume, and she is a ball of a woman, a power ball, I must say. Welcome, madam, to the show.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me, advocate.
You are more than welcome. And I'm so excited about this conversation because it started in the car on our drive from Chimani one fine December day.
Yes.
And we spoke about the issues of love, marriage, money, and women empowerment. Mm-hmm. And I thought, like, this February day, which is a month of love, we need to talk about love, we need to talk about marriage, we need to talk about especially women and their empowerment. So I'm so excited that as a Christian woman, as a wife of a pastor, and also a women's rights advocate, we are happy to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Nyari. I think it's exciting that we're having this conversation, especially in the month of February, which is the month of love.
And I love your love.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm a strong believer of love. And like you say, I'm married to Pastor Musara, who is my husband from the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
Lovely.
And I'm excited to be here to explore this beautiful thing that God did for us. It's wonderful.
And just as an interesting thing to say, what are the odds that you're Seventh Day, you're a women's rights advocate, you're a pastor's wife, a very bold women's rights activist, and then a pastor's wife in the Seventh-day Adventist Church? What are the odds?
Well, it's a concussion, really. It's a mixture of everything.
Right.
But I think for me, being a Christian woman and being an advocate is something that comes strongly to me, because I believe that, Jesus was an advocate especially for women, and he understood the needs of women.
Right.
And so for me, drawing the strength from the Bible and saying, look, hold up, this is what Jesus represented for women.
Right.
He wanted women to live freely.
Right.
He wanted women to live without guilt.
Yeah.
He wanted to uphold women. Even he presented himself first to a woman when he rose. So it was the woman who was given the mandate, actually, to go and spread the word of God.
But then, I'm just going to I believe everything that you're saying, but there are people who then question to say, how come Jesus did not have any woman as a disciple, for example?
I mean, that's the belief of everybody, but Jesus had women disciples. His ministry was funded by women. We are talking about Suzanne. These are wealthy women I'm talking about. You are talking about Mary Magdalene,
Priscilla.
Whom you are talking about, all those women who were really behind the ministry of Jesus. And he was friends to Mary and Martha.
Right.
And he would feel comfortable always to go to them,
But why didn't Jesus officiate his relationship with these women, as in calling them disciples? Because we read about the 12 disciples. And so if Jesus was friends with women, which we know he revealed himself to women all the time. I mean, talk about even the structure of redemption, for example. God shows himself to Mary.
Exactly.
And Joseph actually was an accessory to say, when he was about to say, hold up, woman, you're pregnant. How are you pregnant? And then God then decides to appear to Joseph. But the plan of salvation was between God and Mary. He appears to Mary. Mary's pregnant. And as you rightfully say, Jesus later dies. The first person that he says is a woman. Talk about Samaria as well, the Samaritans. Jesus appears to the Samaritan woman. I don't see Chifere. So I am on board. But why wasn't there an official, as we know, an official disciple?
Well, I mean, these were official disciples. The fact that it's not, the women. The fact that it's not written down by then the interpreters who were given the word of God. Because you have got to understand the context in which the Bible was written. Right. And the historical context is that it was written within a patriarchal view and concept. Exactly. So they might not have really acknowledged, but the fact that at least they did acknowledge that, Jesus had these disciples, and amongst them, women.
Right.
You see, so that's the power of reading the word from my perspective as a women's rights activist as well, to say, okay, so what did Jesus mean? What does he mean to a woman? Do I have a place in the Bible as a woman?
Right.
Then the interpretation lightens up. Right. And then Jesus just lights up your journey as a women's rights activist and as a Christian.
Wow, I feel like we need to have a conversation about the role of women in the Bible, because we unfortunately still find ourselves in a culture that still relegates women as second class Christian citizens, even in our churches.
Exactly.
I mean, we still find, we're still talking about debating, and yet all these things point. But today we want to talk about the issue of love, marriage, and money, and women's economic empowerment. And so we started, as I mentioned earlier, on our conversation in the car from Chimani coming from work. And you were sharing with me how you and your husband enjoy what we could call an equal relationship. And I found myself to say, yes, we are in a Zimbabwe where some women are living nice marriages like yours, and you still go to what could be called a conservative church, but you have an understanding husband who allows you to be everything that you're allowed. The seventh day space knows you, and you're the pastor, you're my pastor, and yet we have a lot of our young couples, even older couples, who are in what you and I would call regressive or oppressive marriages. What would you say are some of the values that young people, or before people get married, what are some of the conversations that people must have between a boyfriend and a girlfriend who want to support each other's economic empowerment, welfare, or for each of them to be full individuals even when they get married? What are some of those conversations?
I think advocates, it's a lot of things, it's a lot of work having a sustained marriage, but one thing I can say is individuality and respect are the key ingredients of a successful marriage. And these are things that we should discuss before. What are the aspirations? I met Pastor when I was 34.
Wow.
So already.
Wow, when you were 34. And how old was he?
He was 36 at the time.
You're pretty much...
Yeah, we are pretty much in the same age bands. So for us, it was, you have pretty much made up your career trajectory. You have pretty much made up your mind.
An activist
I
in
was
the seventh day already.
Activist,
and you are in the seventh day.
And it's funny because when he met me, he was like, introduce yourself to me. And I'm like, I'm an activist, I'm a gender activist. And I'm pretty much sure he didn't understand what I meant.
But the word gender,
at that time, he chose to ignore that part, Because for me, it was a surprise. Like, other guys were running away because of that.
Yes.
Like, you really, you're too bold, you're too assertive.
Gender.
And you are too opinionated, and this is what others would say. So for him to ignore that part, for me, was like, okay, this is interesting. Let me give him more of my time. So we started engaging at that level. But it's that acceptance for me that he understood I had a career, he understood I had ambitions, and these are conversations that should be held before marriage. Because I had that conversation. Look, I've got a master's degree, but I would like to pursue a PhD at some point, whether married or not. So he understood my dreams. And I understood his.
So mindfulness, wait there. So you got married at 34. Do you think that if you got married at 2018, you would have been able to articulate your dreams and to be bold to this man?
Not necessarily. I want to be very honest. Because, you see, we are cultured. Our society molds us to a certain belief. And that belief doesn't involve valuing yourself as a woman to pursue your dreams, because you are taught to rise up and live for your husband, kutsvaira chaiko unonzi tsvaira usazotinyadzisa kumurume, kusenga mugomo, senga zvakanaka usanotinyadzisa kumurume.
It's pretty much you are designed to get married.
You are designed to get married, but you are also designed to only please your husband in marriage.
Yes.
And you're
and his relatives, of course.
And his relatives and his kinsmen.
Yeah.
And you're designed to ignore your feelings when you go into marriage and your kinsmen. But surprisingly, you're still mutorwa where you're going. So for me, because then I advanced my interests in a certain area and I began to study. And in our church, we have this woman we call Ellen G. White, who is pretty much guides our teaching.
You said what? Ellen G. White?
Yes.
Okay.
Who pretty much guides our beliefs. And she has written so many, about 100 copies of books, guiding us. And she has this fundamental book that's called Daughters of God. And in that book, she was talking about women should be teachers, women should be doctors, women should be physicians. She used the word physicians. And it was a wow moment for me to say, oh, so, women can be anything. And this is from a woman we revere as inspired. So for me, that took a twist and a turn in my Christianity. And then I started to read around issues of gender and Christian and what it means to love. So I would say young couples should negotiate and should talk and discuss dreams and aspirations so that you know if you're going to be matched to the right person.
So I just want us to circle back on the issue of Ellen G. White.
Yes.
And her role in, so this is a woman in the seventh day.
Exactly.
How would you analyze the role of the woman in the SDA, especially in context with what we explored a little bit earlier to say the role of the woman and how she's perceived in the church?
So for me, with Ellen G. White, because we believe she was inspired by God directly, so she's a prophetess, a modern-day prophetess in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And she influences 99% of what we do as Seventh-day Adventist Church. But coming back to come down to Africa then, it's a mixture, a concoction of men who are held down with patriarchy and trying to interpret the Bible using cultural lenses that they ignore the fundamental role that a woman plays in this church to then push this, what I would say, an African woman in the back of the space, yet they are guided by a woman. So for me,
interesting.
There is cognitive dissonance, I would say. So for me, that's what I'm saying, that women, especially in our church, need to understand the perfect role that women play, especially knowing that the fundamentals of this change were also directed and inspired through a woman.
I'm blown away. I'm super blown away. So we still find patriarchy beliefs pushing us back. But I want to come back to then you joined with the pastor, you have met and so what's the journey like now? He has understood you, he has given you the ear, he loves you, obviously. He's decided, so he has accepted, but okay, this one, because it's almost like a swear word. So we understand the pastor has accepted, oh, I love this woman, So coming back to the issue of negotiating, values as young couples, and then so you've spoken, how then does it move on to shape your marriage? Maybe just quickly take us into then you have negotiated, mororana masurorana papi. How do you start the marriage to be where you are? Because you're one of the most powerful women leading in our nation, leading one of the most important organizations. You're part of senior leadership, one of the most important organizations. You are, in other words, I'm just trying to demonstrate that you are excelling as a women's rights advocate and activist, and my pastor. How do you cross over to where you are now? You have how many kids now?
Two
kids.
And two foster.
And two foster. Your biological, how old is she or he?
Oh, sorry. The first one is 7.
Now,
and the little one is 5.
Now you crossed over. Take us through maybe briefly to say you have negotiated, you understand you're a gender activist and crossing over to where you are, especially highlighting the ideals of supporting each other and allowing each other to be what God has called us to be.
We can have different interests and still love each other. We can have different understanding on some issues, obviously. Because we are two people coming from different backgrounds and with different ideals and principles. And for me, when I first heard his first sermon, and he was talking about women, how men preach when they want to talk about women. I was like, I literally wanted to jump out of my chair.
Were you married then?
I was married then. That's when I first heard his first sermon. And literally,
so you had not yet heard him before when you were dating? Okay, all right.
So I was like,
what is it about?
How is he talking about women? And when it came down from there, I was like, oh my dear, I think, when you address issues that women do, whether sinful or not, you've got to do that with much respect.
So give us an example exactly of some, if you don't mind.
I can't remember the exact words you used, but what I still remember are the feelings that I had when that statement was thrown in. The sermon was good. But you know how it is when a sermon is really great, and then because of patriarchy and because of other things that might happen, someone might just throw in a statement that can become sour in your mouth.
So I mean, for you and I. Some people...
for you and I.
I have been in church settings where everyone is happy. And then there is that word that's just like put there and it sours everything for me. And then you talk to someone, that was a good session. But you and I, but please go ahead. Yes.
So for me, and then he was like, okay, why? And women come to receive hope in church. They come to receive love. They come to be comforted. There's so much that happens out there, even in their own homes, that brings so much pain. So when they come to the minister of God, what they want to hear is assurance.
Not judgment.
It's love, not judgment. And so he understood. And I saw a gradual shift in the way he would address his sermons and the way he would preach.
Is there a way that you addressed him that you think made him receive that as well?
Yeah. And I think for me, we talk to each other with respect. With much, much respect. My husband is a firm person. Most people don't know because he's a quiet guy. He's a gentleman. He's a very nice person. But he's very firm. So when you're addressing him, you come from a point of love. Because I want to tell you, Nyari, he has never shouted at me for the 7 years that I've been in marriage.
Praise Jesus.
Yes. He doesn't raise his voice on me. He doesn't raise his hand on me. He doesn't do all that. So even though I'm a high-spirited person, sometimes
passionate,
you then say, passionate and everything. Sometimes you then say, Rotina, you just have to chill. This man is just
chill
okay.
pill.
Swallow your chill pill. Of course, eruptions happen here and there from my side. Sometimes he's disappointed in me and I'm disappointed in him. But the important thing is to find yourself and move forward. To say, okay, we are different people. We have disagreements. What's your temperament? We took a temperament test. What's your temperament? What's my temperament? What does my temperament do when it's angry? What does his do when he's angry? So we understand each other at that point to say, if I see him quiet and reserved, it doesn't mean he's forgotten about it because his temperament doesn't quickly forget things. So we might have a discussion maybe 2 days later and I might have forgotten about it, because my temperament quickly forgets.
Let's go.
It's now and we've talked about it, let's go. So from that, I've learned to use my words on him cautiously so that it doesn't hit him hard, So these are things that couples should do. Learn your partner, understand the personality of your partner, understand their temperaments. Don't expect them to be you. People are different. I might love, education. I might want to go to the highest level, to a PhD, but my husband might not.
That's not him.
It's not him. He loves farming. So I also immersed myself in farming
because he loves farming.
He loves it. to support him.
Wow.
And it has been a journey that, you know, we come together and talk about our things at the farm and talk about all that stuff, because that's where we convene. That's when we touch base. That's when that's what the both of us love to do. So in as much as we can do things differently most of the time, but there are a few things that we come together and do the same.
To be a Tory? So that is very profound. That's super profound. That there is a recognition that we are one flesh, but we're also different. We're different in the sense that God created you, God created him. And I love how you have brought the angle that we need to celebrate each other's differences. He's a different person, God's creation masterpiece. You're a different person, God's creation masterpiece. God deliberately allowed you guys to meet so that you complement each other. So not that you are the same, because if you were the same, there's no point in having you guys come together. And so in the interest of, you have immersed yourself in farming because it's a farmer, you're a mindfulness. I've watched you. I remember that Chimanimani day. We left Chimanimani at 4 a.m. because you were going to preach somewhere. That means that you have immersed yourself in the in the work of the Lord as well, because you were my pastor. And so, has he ever been to your toys? Because I know you also, we do matches for women, human rights. How does he support your work?
Okay, so for me, like I've said, I've seen a shift in the way that he preaches. And sometimes even when I'm not where he is and he has delivered a sermon, I have 1 or 2 women calling to say, you know, your husband was talking so much about supporting women, about, you know, empowering women. And you know, we were really marveling and we really enjoyed what he was saying, you know. And for me, that's affirmation.
Right.
To say he's supporting me, he's supporting my ministry. Because for me, working with women and girls is a ministry for me. So it's not something that I do because it's work per se. It's something that I do because I believe also, you know, God placed me in that to bring hope to women, especially Christian women, to understand that God loves them and to understand that they can be whom they want to be. So for me, it's also a ministry. So when I hear such words of affirmation, I know that he's there. He supports me. He's doing his part of the work.
Absolutely. That's amazing. And so now coming to, now you have set the ground, you've married. So upon getting married, how is your relationship? So I think a lot of women, or especially younger women or unmarried women, they may even be senior women, but they love relationships where there is equality in partnerships. First of all, what is your take? Would you review your marriage as an equal partnership? And what does that look like? And what does that look like for a man who is willing to get into a Christian man, or just a progressive man who wants to get into a relationship and want to be happy and say, how do I support my wife? How do we create an equal relationship and partnership?
So for me, I think for us, when entering our marriage, we were seeing ourselves as humans. You know, we really talk about who is on top of the other, who is, you know, who is the baba here,
the man of the house.
That conversation is not there in our space. You are the father of the household, I'm the mother of the household. We love each other that way. So we have been truly, you know, just being honest about our relationship. If we have to discuss things, we sit down. Okay, this is the project that we want to do. How are we going to do it? What are the resources that are needed? So how much can you bring to the table? I declare what I can bring. He declares what he can bring. And we put it out there and we start working together, you know. So for us, we have no problems of who is on top of the other. We are equal human beings who came together for love, for companionship, who understood the assignment. This is marriage, this is love. We are here to love each other. Look, we are 34, we are 36. The best we can do for each other is to love each other and nothing more. So I've never felt intimidated, and I think he's also never felt intimidated by my presence, because it's around the family unit, it's around love, companionship. You are a woman, I'm a man. created in God's image, you know. And God said He created the male and female. He created them. So Amen. For us, I think that's where we are coming from to say, let's be happy in this marriage. And in terms of supporting each other, you are looking at opportunities. So what would you want to pursue? Oh, I want to pursue 1, 2, 3. Okay, go for it. They ask the same. So what you want to do? I'm doing PhD right now, you know, in my final years of it. It's like, okay, just start, just do it. How you are going to do it, you know best, you know. He prays for me from one job to the next. Right. And you know, we pray for resources, we pray for everything. So that brings us to the case that, you know, we are two lovers in a marriage. Wow. And if young people, if older people look at it that way, to say, why are we here? We are here for love. Love each other continuously. Then you don't worry about the power dynamics that can potentially damage even your own marriage.
So there are statements like men and women can never be equal.
Yeah, they are thrown around.
Is it men and women can never be equal, or men and women can never be the same? How do we deal with this? Because when I feel like I've seen it even in churches and listening to pastors, different pastors preach, saying, men and women can never be equal. And yet you say, in the image of God, they were created male and female. And also Paul goes on to say, there is now no difference. There is no Jew, no male or female. But I think fundamentally the power of the word in Genesis, when we created it, He created the male and female. That means I feel like there is a confusion between being different as well as being equal. I feel like there is equality between humans. You're a man, I'm a woman, you're a woman, I'm a man. We are all important but different. And our differences should not make the other feel better. Because then I've been in spaces where men say, we are macho, we build things, we are the builders, we can never be equal with women, we have strength. And I'm thinking, what strength do you have that can be more powerful than bringing a human being to the world? So for me, in my own conviction, I subscribe to the fact that men and women are different to the glory of God. And their differences, none is better than the other. Exactly. It is just to glorify God. But I would love to hear from the setup of your marriage how that pans out.
I think for us, like you're saying, that there is no difference really. Because when we are looking, I mean, we are all equal. Because for me, I'll give you a simple example. We have two children,
two beautiful children,
a girl and a boy, for instance. The boy goes to school the same way a girl goes to school. God blesses them both to pass all levels. God blesses them both to go to university. So we cannot say God should have blessed the boy much more than the girl. And the girl goes on to look for work, praying to God to open those doors. And the God himself answers this girl. And she is a manager of an executive company. And the boy is answered as well. He's a manager of an executive company. So we cannot say the blessings of this one are not of God because she's female. And the blessings of the boy are of God because he's male. So from that simple analogy, to me, it's God to say, you know what? I bless whomever I bless the way I want to bless.
There's a scripture that says, I will bless whoever I want to bless.
I want to bless. So for me, God doesn't care whether you're male or female. God positions the blessings that he wants to anybody. So for example, if we are in a marriage and your wife, for example, is the one who is positioned to receive the blessing, God will bring the financial blessing through that wife.
People are ready for this conversation.
People are not ready, but this is the truth. Because God is looking.
Because I think we have so many families where the blessing is on the woman.
And the man doesn't appreciate.
There's abuse.
But this is where people need to understand. Because when God is bringing a blessing, He looks at, so who is better placed to receive it? So there's a posting for a person with a master's. Your wife has it. And God is bringing the blessing through what He has blessed your wife with throughout your journey. And He says, okay, I think they need now a pocket of 3.5 or 4,000 or 10,000. But the wife is better placed. So God will bring the blessings through the wife. And then He looks again and says, okay, so the man also has, a degree in this and that. So he's better placed to receive the blessing. And He brings that blessing through the husband. So when you understand it from that viewpoint, then you begin to understand that I've received these blessings for the family. Whether you are a wife, whether you're the husband. Because God blesses through the one who can receive it better and receive it earlier than to wait.
Sure. Many thoughts come to mind as you just said that powerful stuff, because the issue of, are we also as women willing to say, because funny, a lot of flying conversations that says your money is our money, my money is mine. So if in that scenario, where is the woman placed to receive, and then she goes by your money is your money, our money, my money is my money, and then God has chosen you in that marriage, do we not also have those problems? And what can we say to our women? So that the blessing is for the family. We did interrogate the fact that some men cannot deal with the blessing. But then does it also not sometimes, not always, sometimes come from the fact that we as women, when we then eventually receive that, we are now no longer respecting our husbands. We are now placing value at money rather than the equal relationship. I think a lot of people don't understand the fundamentals of marriage.
I think it's a whole lot of things, Nyari, when I'm answering this, because you're looking from a cultural perspective, where the woman is told the man is your provider, both culturally and biblically.
No, but then biblically there's the Proverbs 31 woman as well.
I'm coming to that as well. So you see, when that happens, is what do we understand, both men and women, as being a provider? It boils down to that. Because if I'm working, I'm getting up at 8, I come back home at 5. And my husband is at home. And he wakes up pretty much the same time. And he makes sure the kids are ready for school. And he makes sure that he's taken them to school. And he's making sure that the house is clean. And he's making sure that by 6 o'clock, he has cooked for his family, not for me. For his family, and makes sure that his family is well fed. That's provision. Look at Abraham. He was cooking for visitors. And Sarah was there. You know,
they were helping each other.
They helped each other. And you look at I want to do the flip side of that, to say the Shunammite woman. She is referenced as a wealthy woman
who funded the ministry,
who funded a man of God. And actually built a double story on,
for a man of God.
For a man of God.
She went to her husband and said, hey, let's do this.
Let's do this. And the husband listened. But, the distinction that the Bible knew, well, they were together, but the wealthy one was the wife.
And the men did not flex and say, we can't.
He didn't flex. So that is an example of a healthy relationship for me. Probably the husband understood that, this one is industrious. I can't beat her, And he allowed her to flourish and do business pursuits until everyone knew this one is a wealthy woman. And the Bible had to record that.
Wow. So, but then the character of this woman, let's talk about it. So she was not selfish. She was not a selfish woman to say, Mariangu, or this is mine. Let's talk about that woman as well.
Because that woman then goes to the husband to consult. Even though she knew, I as the wealthy one was going to build this, whether he liked it or not, by the way. But I have to talk to my husband. And this is what we are talking about. To say, okay, have discussions. The household was blessed through the wife.
Yeah.
For instance, let's go and discuss. So my husband, I want to do this.
Right.
You know, I've come up with a decision. This husband did not say, so you are dictating to me because it won't marry.
Yeah.
You are giving this decision because it won't marry. But he understood where this woman was coming from. And this is what I'm saying. The trajectory that we have now, Nyari, and I'm going to be honest, is when something happened, retrenchments happened, we have men who are sitting at home doing absolutely nothing. But we see this man going to the field with the son at some point.
Right.
While this woman, I presume, was going out investing and doing all those things. So there was a balance.
Yeah.
You see?
He still worked. He still found somewhere to do.
He still found a garden.
He still found chimunda. Chekuti tuwane muriwo.
While you are looking for wealth, you know, silver and gold.
Anakugara kuti zete kwenda mukanipenda
kuchinja reports nekutsamwa kuti wasuggestere something waenda pamusoro pangu. They had a family unit.
Wow.
So this is what we are saying when we are looking at that, to say working for your family doesn't mean going out with the time.
Yeah.
It also means being responsible in the household to your own family.
I want us, as we end, Retina, to say, there's something you told me about how the joining part. Let's just settle back in to say, my couples, when they get married, they've negotiated, or my name is Nyari, I'm an advocate for women's rights and youth and all those things. I love entrepreneurship. Mashayamombe, set up, then usually young women then have to wake up in the morning, start cleaning. Say, because this is now later my gender roles. As we are ending, let's talk about my gender roles to say, what are the practical things women and men can do? What are the practical things young women can do when they are entering marriage?
Yeah.
And also, what can men do to make sure that they are enabling both of them to pursue their God-given, fulfilling lives?
Yes, I think the issue of gender roles is the sticky one, which is built, again, not blaming anyone, but it's built on culture, it's built on patriarchy, it's built on all those things where the woman is supposed to be at home.
Yeah.
All right. And then we have a world that has moved.
Right.
Where now the woman is also working and doing pretty much what the man was doing back then. But also we have a history of colonialism. And you know, this is where discussions about the decolonial feminism starts to come in. To say we are so burdened by a lot of things as African women. And I want to come to the point that, you know, when you're in the household now.
And how you started, I love your story. The first time you guys got married, just take us on those examples.
Yeah, so for me, when I first got married, for me, like I said, I love farming and everything. And that's how my mother groomed me. She didn't groom me in the stereotype of being in the kitchen and cooking and things like that. So when I first got married, our first Sunday, I think, when I was supposed to wake up early, I woke up at 10 o'clock.
That moment, you're supposed to wake up early and do things for your husband.
I'm just sleeping, I'm just flat, I'm just tired. 10 a.m., I'm opening my eyes. I said, oh, what's the time? And he says, it's 10, you know. I think he realized I wanted to sleep, I wanted to rest. And then, you know, I just woke up and said, okay, so what do we do? And that's how we started. But also we lived in separate towns.
Right.
So Friday, you know, as SDAs, we prepare our food on Friday. I made sure he had the gadgets necessary.
Okay.
Because I would drive to Wedza, you know, from Harare. And that was a long drive, you know, to Mutweshiri. So I would just say, you know, there's a rice cooker, 2 cups of water, there are eggs there. Boil, he's vegetarian, by the way.
Right.
Boil, you know, 4, there's this, you know, and I would find him, he would have prepared. I mean, that's how I think he loved me enough to express himself that way. So he would prepare everything. In terms of washing clothes, we had a washing machine. So these are some of the things that young couples can actually do. You know, modernize your home.
Yeah.
Why not?
Right.
Modernize it. Then click off the button. You've washed your plates. And anyone can do that.
Yeah, of course, for those who can afford.
For those who can afford.
Some that can't.
I'll give an example of a couple that we ministered to in Goromonzi, a man and a woman. It was a lovely rural couple. And every time, because I used to go there very early in the morning, I was in the business of selling chickens and all that. So I would go to his household to take the wife while he remained at home. And every time I would get there, he would be zuraring rice.
Wow.
And then he would say...
The husband?
The husband. Oh. He would be zuraring house, and then he says, I'm the one who cooks for the family, so that when my kids come back from lunch, they can actually have food.
Wow.
And he would prepare the rice and he was so consistent. And the wife was saying, my husband is so helpful. We do everything. Wow. We go to wash clothes together. So it doesn't matter whether you have money or not. What matters is the belief, a strong belief that I love my wife. We have to do things together. We have to help each other around the household. And this is what we can do. And that frees time for play.
Ooh.
Yeah. Right. We are talking about love. We are talking about the love of love, the month of love.
Yes.
So it frees your time for play. Even in the evening. For your Musana, there's not that excuse. And even if you're pregnant, someone has to be there for you. My husband was totally and 100% there for me. So all that, it builds a home. But what's important is when you first meet, spell out your expectations. Tell them what you can do. I remember, cooking mods in too much salt, and my husband was so lovely about that. And but in other homes, someone can actually lash out to say, you don't know how to cook anymore, because it was our first week of marriage. So what I'm saying is, I respect him for loving me that way, for being a hands-on father, even with the children, even with the kids.
That enables you to pursue your career as well.
And my career.
Right.
And couples shouldn't stop each other. One of the things, because of our culture and how we are societally bred, most women feel when they get married, they have to stop life and immerse themselves. So they now have a meshed relationship. But it's not good for our mental health.
It's not. It's also not in the long run. It's not practical.
It's not practical. So you need to spell out your expectations. If you need to prioritize, maybe you have financial obligations. You can prioritize to say, okay, you start, I'll go next.
Right.
And you do it in an orderly manner so that you don't strain yourself.
Right.
But what's important is communicating, talking about it, sharing your dreams, and fly high and negotiating.
And I just want to say also at the end that I think a lot of young women have what we spoke about earlier, to say when they get married, they've been my baby shower my bridal shower, bridal showers that are also very toxic. That still tell the young wife, say, oh, this is what you're supposed to do for your husband. And she can do that for the first and second year, where she has to wake up very early, do this, clean before you go to work and stuff like that. You did talk about decolonizing the everything, because the things that women are having to do are pre-colonial, before women went to work. But now women can go to work. Someone can have a husband who says, and make you a maid, and watch you in a maid. But then this woman is going to work. So I think also, as we wrap up, to say, I think it's also important for young women to negotiate. Kusada ku wonererwa my first days, to negotiate, to say, look, this is how we're going to do our laundry. We're going to have someone who comes in, maybe a young couple, someone can come in and clean every once or twice, once a week or twice a week. Once a week or once in 2 weeks, to come and wash your clothes, clean up the house, so that you have time to rest, time to play, and time to go to school as well. What would you tell the men that insist on wanting the wife to cook after work? And that's exhausting.
It's so exhausting. And there's no difference, really. They eat in restaurants. That's not their wife cooking. They'll go to other places. They'll eat at work. It's not their wife cooking, So when she can, it's good to cook. Right. When he can, it's also good to cook for his family. So it's a matter of setting aside time. If women are different. We don't want to put women in a homogeneous group. So women are different. So if another woman feels, I want to be a stay-at-home mom, but she deserves the respect, and it's fine. If she wants to cook that day, she deserves the respect, and it's fine. But also we are saying, lessen the burden, so that you free up time to enjoy and be happy. And also, you mentioned about our bridal showers.
Yes.
It's time we revolutionize those. I speak on bridal showers a lot.
Right.
And I talk about property rights. I talk about the woman's health. I talk about self-care. You know, the things that matter in marriage. So we need to change the way we are talking. Right. We also need to change the way we are raising our boys. Let them be equal participants in the household. Let them sweep, cook, make their own bed. Let them do all those things, so that when even they are grown up, we have not confined them to a normative that we are also trying to challenge. But we are saying, you know, we have groomed them to be responsible citizens. Because for me, it's responsibility to clean after your own mess. It's being responsible. To make your bed that you've slept in. It's being responsible. To wash your clothes. So my boys, I'm training them to be responsible citizens and to be of value to the woman that they're going to be joined to.
I hope you found value in this conversation. I am Advocate Nyari Mashayamombe, and you're watching Identities with Nyari Mashayamombe, the Empowerment Podcast. Follow us on our Facebook page as well as on our YouTube, and please leave a comment. Would love to hear what you think. Would love to hear your feedback. And I am very grateful for Madame Rotina Mafume, Mrs. Musara, my pastor, very passionate about the women's issues. We hope as a man, as a woman, you found value in this. That is the intention, to add value to you. This series is about love and women's economic empowerment, and we want to hear how you are doing and faring. And of course, I care about men's economic empowerment as well, but we just know that sometimes women have it hard at the expense of love and marriage. And we're saying, elevate the women in your life, elevate the youths in your life. Until next time, have a good one.